Every level of boxing skill explained. Level 1. Trash. This is the kind of boxing that's so bad it's entertaining. Every punch is wild, every move off balance, and defense doesn't exist. They swing like it's a bar fight, gas out in 2 rounds, and somehow still think they're good. A perfect example of a trash boxer is Ricardo Mayorga. One of the best things about his fights was knowing you'd eventually see him get whooped. People didn't tune in to watch him win. They watched because he made losing entertaining. Before fighting Felix Trinidad, he promised to stand still in the first round and let Trinidad hit him clean to prove he couldn't be hurt. On fight night, he actually did it. Walked out, chin high, hands low, daring Trinidad to test him. 2 hooks later, he was pretending to be wobbled, grinning like it was all part of the plan. By round 8, the act was over. Trinidad dropped him 3 times and the ref stopped the beating. Jake Paul is a different breed of trash, a man who trained to look like a boxer instead of becoming one. On paper, his record looks solid. In reality, it's built on retired MMA fighters, undersized opponents, and paychecks big enough to make anyone play along. It started with Nate Robinson, a 5'9" NBA player with 0 boxing background. Jake dropped him 3 times in 2 rounds and celebrated like he'd conquered the sport. Then came wrestler Tyron Woodley, 40 years old, and coming off 4 straight MMA losses. Beating him did improve skill. It showed he could bribe retired athletes who don't even box to get beaten up out for a paycheck. The next guy he bribed was Anderson Silva, a 47-year-old retired MMA legend. Jake edged out a decision and acted like he'd beaten a legit boxer. But when he finally faced a real boxer / Love Island contestant, Tommy Fury, the act fell apart. Fury wasn't elite, but he still out-jabbed Jake, outmoved him, and showed that YouTuber power doesn't even work on reality TV stars. After the loss, Jake returned to the only thing he's mastered: spectacle. Fighting Mike Tyson, 58, and retired longer than Jake's been alive. It was a brutal fight to watch, and not just because of the sloppy boxing. Now he's chasing Gervonta Davis, a way smaller boxer who's way out of his weight class. Jake doesn't look for challenging fights. He picks opponents that will annoy the crap out of real boxing fans. The only guy who bugs fans more than Jake is KSI. In his fight with Tommy Fury, fans weren't sure if this was a fight or just 2 best friends meeting up to hug for an hour. KSI probably set a new world record for hugs that night. It was so bad they had to play the Rocky theme music just to remind people it was a boxing match. Everyone in the comments complained that they paid to watch a boxing match, not to watch the Grinch do cardio. It was so bad that even people who streamed it for free wanted a refund. If you'd like to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. I'll be posting new videos regularly. Level 2, bad. This is where raw power hides bad habits. Fighters at this level can win by knockout, but lose every exchange in between. They're dangerous, unpredictable, and one-dimensional, thrilling until the moment their one trick stops working. Deontay Wilder is the perfect example. His right-hand power is absurd. One clean shot can erase a fight, a round, or a reputation. It carried him through 40 wins, but once opponents started surviving that first bomb, it all fell apart. The Tyson Fury trilogy made this obvious. When the right hand didn't end the fight, everything else looked desperate. In the first meeting, Wilder landed just 71 of 430 punches. Proof that raw power doesn't mean much when most of it's flying past the target. Fury slipped, rolled, and leaned past every power punch. By the rematch, Fury wasn't dodging it anymore. He was walking straight through it and breaking down Wilder's balance one shove at a time. It's no surprise that Wilder's training footage showed him working on spin moves more than his jab. Speaking of one-trick ponies, Amir Khan's only trick is speed. His hands move faster than his balance ever did. Every flurry looks sharp until you notice the feet planted, the chin lifted, and the broken defense. Against Danny Garcia, that flaw finally caught up to him. Khan looked dominant early, throwing in volume and leaving his head where the last punch ended. By the 3rd round, Garcia stopped reacting and started timing. Khan pulled straight back from another combination and walked right into a counter left hook that froze him before he hit the ground. Then came Canelo Alvarez, who didn't even need to rush. Khan was winning rounds with quick jabs and straight rights, but there was no variety. Canelo just waited for the pattern to loop. One right hand ended it instant. The same flaw, punished again by a fighter who didn't have to be fast, just patient enough to let Khan beat himself. Andy Ruiz Jr. is another boxer with world-class hands, but one big flaw: lazy discipline. In the first Anthony Joshua fight, his mechanics were sharp. 6 months later in the rematch, he showed up 30 pounds heavier. The bounce in his feet was gone. The guard that used to slip and catch now just absorbed. His jab had no range, his counters no trigger. Joshua didn't outfight him. He outwalked him, circling on light feet while Ruiz trudged after him in slow motion. By the middle rounds, Ruiz's head movement froze. His defense turned passive, and his offense came from too far away. Every step forward widened the stance and killed the rhythm. Joshua barely had to take risks. Ruiz's own inertia did the work. Joshua won a wide decision, barely marked up, while Ruiz smiled like it was close. It wasn't. Joshua barely had to sweat. This next guy is proof that being a great MMA fighter doesn't automatically make you a good boxer. Conor McGregor's boxing career ended the moment he stood in front of Floyd Mayweather and thought distance control would save him. His stance was too wide, his rhythm too stiff, and his MMA instincts worked against him. The early rounds looked fine, mostly because Mayweather was collecting data. McGregor's punches had shape, but no weight transfer. His base was frozen too wide to roll or pivot, so every exchange ended in the same static pose: tall, square, and waiting. Mayweather didn't even need to press. He just waited for the final rounds, then took Conor into the deep water. Conor's body language said it all. Still fighting like he could kick, still thinking like distance mattered, and still learning what boxing fatigue feels like. Level 3, mid. This is where talent hits its limit. Fighters here have real skill and sharp instincts, but can't keep control once opponents adjust. They look elite in moments, then ordinary the next. Mid is the land of almost great footwork, almost real defense, almost complete. Ryan Garcia is the perfect mid-tier fighter. His left hook is one of the fastest in boxing, but it works alone. He throws before he's in position, and that same instinct that wins him fights is what gets him caught. Against Gervonta Davis, Ryan's flaws finally had nowhere to hide. He started fast, landing jabs and forcing exchanges, but every attack came in straight lines. No angles, no setups, just speed. After dropping his right hand to throw that signature left hook, Davis read the pattern instantly. The first knockdown came from that exact mistake. Tank slipped inside, fired a short counter left, and Garcia never saw it. From there, Ryan kept chasing the moment instead of the fight. His chin stayed high, his feet stayed square, and his timing got predictable. By the 7th round, Tank didn't need power to end it, just patience. One perfectly timed body shot folded Ryan because every piece of his defense had already fallen out of sync. Garcia's speed is good for making highlights, not winning rounds. Gervonta Davis is the opposite type of mid-boxer. His balance, timing, and counterpunching are elite, but he only shows them in flashes. He gives away early rounds because he waits too long to engage. Against Ryan Garcia, that patience looked brilliant. Against Isaac Cruz, it almost cost him. His tight defense sets up perfect counters, but he rarely leads, so every round turns into a waiting. When opponents charge in, he looks untouchable. When they move, he disappears. Davis understands tempo better than almost anyone. He just refuses to take risks. That's what keeps him mid. Too sharp to lose badly, too careful to dominate. Caleb Plant is the thinker of the group. Smart, technical, but limited. He controls distance with a great jab and clean footwork, making opponents fight his fight. Early against Jose Uzcategui and even Canelo Alvarez, it looked flawless. But once opponents walk through the jab, the control fades. His punches score but don't hurt. His pivots dodge but don't punish. When it's time to trade, he can't turn positioning into damage. Plant's skill earns respect, not fear, and that's why he fades late. He can manage a fight, but not take it over. Isaac Pitbull Cruz is another mid-boxer. All pressure, no precision. He fights like he's trying to win by force alone. Short steps, tight guard, always charging forward. Against Gervonta Davis, that aggression almost worked. He made Davis fight in close and took away space. But once opponents start moving, Cruz runs out of options. No jab, no setups, just pursuit. When he's in front of you, he's dangerous. When he has to find you, he's lost. Level 4, skilled but flawed. This is a level where boxing becomes art, just not every night. Fighters here have real craft, crisp counters, clever setups, and moments that look elite, but the execution flickers. Skilled but flawed means they're close enough to beat top names, but not yet consistent enough to stay there. Teofimo Lopez embodies it perfect. His reads are sharp, his counters explosive, and his confidence magnetic. But everything depends on timing. When the rhythm's his, He looks untouchable. When it's not, the system crumbles. Josh Taylor shows the same contradiction in a different form. He's polished, aggressive, and dangerous in the pocket. The kind of fighter who looks unstoppable when the tempo suits him. Against Jose Ramirez, his pressure and precision meshed like clockwork, but Teofimo Lopez broke that pattern. Taylor's stance squared mid-combination. His chin stayed high, and every reset turned into a clinch. He's elite when he dictates, ordinary when he reacts. His flaw isn't in what he does, it's in what he can't adjust to. Then there's Errol Spence Jr., a machine built on structure. His southpaw jab, tight guard, and forward rhythm form one of the most efficient pressure systems in boxing. Against Yordenis Ugas, it was surgical. Against Terence Crawford, it became predictable. Once the jab was neutralized, Spence kept moving forward but stopped making choices. His mechanics kept firing, but the mind behind them stalled. His foundation is world-class, but flexibility, that ability to change on the fly, just isn't there. Anthony Joshua does everything by the book. Clean stance, perfect form, balanced footwork. But when a fight turns messy, he freezes for half a second, and that's all it takes. His skills are elite, but his reactions aren't. Against Alexander Usyk, it cost him the fight. Joshua's biggest flaw isn't what he does, it's what he doesn't do when the pressure is on. Instead of improvising, he resets. Instead of firing back, he waits. At the top level, the best fighters stay calm and creative under pressure. Joshua stays cautious. That's why he looks elite when he's in control, but mechanical the moment a fight turns chaotic. Where Joshua hesitates under pressure, Benavidez charges straight through it. Few fighters embody raw momentum like David Benavidez. He doesn't outthink opponents, he drowns them. But that same relentless drive comes with limits. His combinations and pressure overwhelm most fighters. Yet his heavy feet and straight-line pursuit expose the boundary between aggression and control. Benavidez overwhelms through volume and intensity, but footwork limits how far that style can climb. His combinations, pressure, and hand speed break opponents' rhythm, yet the same forward drive betrays him against lateral movement. Straight-line attacks and heavy feet make him hittable when he can't dictate space. Against Caleb Plant, his pressure finally worked, but early on it was easy to see the flaw. He followed instead of cutting off, chasing movement instead of controlling it. Prince Nassim Hamed embodies the creative side of the skilled but flawed. His improvisation and unorthodox timing produced brilliance few could predict, but he relied on it entirely. Against Kevin Kelly, that unpredictability created chaos he barely controlled. Against Marco Antonio Barrera, it backfired completely. He leapt from range to range, breaking guard integrity every time he attacked. His reflexes were world-class, but there was no real system behind them. Level 5, the professionals. This is where skill meets consistency. Fighters here are polished, disciplined, and adaptable, capable of handling any style without losing control. They don't just fight well, they fight smart. Championship form isn't their peak, it's their baseline. Canelo Alvarez is the most complete version of a professional boxer. Every move is calculated. Tight guard, perfect balance, clean, efficient combination. He controls fights through subtle distance and timing, winning exchanges by inches. Inside the pocket, his rhythm and composure are unmatched. Against Dimitri Bivol, that precision met its limit. Range and movement pulled him out of his ideal range, forcing him to chase instead of command. But even in defeat, the discipline never cracked. Canelo stays poised, patient, and dangerous every second he's in reach. He may not dominate every style, but when the fight happens on his terms, nobody in the sport does it better. Shakur Stevenson represents the master tier's obsession with control. He manages distance so precisely that most fights unfold on his terms before a punch even lands. Opponents spend rounds swinging at air, stuck between frustration and hesitation. The only drawback is what comes after. His perfectionism keeps him from taking risks. He values control more than damage. Where elite fighters use defense to create offense, Stevenson uses it to erase mistakes. But that same discipline is what makes him special. He doesn't just avoid danger, he dictates pace, rhythm, and space with total composure. In a sport built on chaos, Shakur makes calm look unbeatable. Dimitri Bivol fits the master tier through pure consistency. His rhythm never drifts, his posture never wavers, and his sense of range feels engineered. Against Canelo Alvarez, that steadiness dismantled pressure with surgical repetition. Same rhythm, same control, no openings. The trade-off is predictability. He maintains fights instead of transforming them. Where higher masters bend rhythm to create new looks, Bivol keeps everything measured and precise. But that's also his strength. He doesn't need chaos to win. He builds control round by round until opponents realize they've been solved. Jaren Boots Ennis also fits into the master tier. He can fight from any stance, counter mid-motion, and create openings nobody else sees. But the variety sometimes works against him. He stacks layers instead of streamlining. Against durable opposition, that excess will cost him control. Ennis shows mastery in execution, not in discipline. Once he learns to refine instead of expand, he moves beyond this level. Oleksandr Usyk shows the calm, calculated side of mastery. His fundamentals reduce fights to timing and distance until opponents lose form. His jab and footwork make heavyweights look like they're trapped in slow motion. For example, in his rematch versus Tyson Fury in December 2024, Usyk repeatedly managed distance despite being significantly outsized, then unleashed crisp combinations that kept Fury off balance and ultimately won a unanimous decision. When a fight slips out of rhythm, Usyk doesn't chase it, he reshapes it. He controls pace with angles, turns pressure into openings, and forces opponents to fight on his clock. At his best, he doesn't just keep up with heavyweights, he makes them look slow. Vasily Lomachenko belongs in the master tier because his positioning and timing let him control how every exchange unfolds. His footwork builds pressure without aggression, trapping opponents in angles they don't see coming. Every pivot opens a lane, every feint sets up the next punch. At his best, he dictates the rhythm of a fight with movement alone. The only time it slips is when that rhythm breaks early. Against Teofimo Lopez, he started too slow, giving up rounds while searching for timing. But when the rhythm returns, he looks untouchable. Against Devin Haney, he reminded everyone what control looks like, turning angles, forcing mistakes, and making a younger, bigger fighter look unsure. Lomachenko's style depends on control, but when he finds it, there's no one smoother or smarter in the ring. Level 6, great. This is where mastery feels effortless. Fighters here don't just react, they control everything. Pace, distance, and emotion. They turn tough fights into lessons and chaos into rhythm. Greatness isn't what they reach for, it's where they operate. Terence Crawford belongs in the great tier because he controls distance, timing, and tempo better than anyone of his era. He's mastered range, rhythm, and reaction to the point where opponents never know which of the three they're losing first. Against Gamboa, he adapted from boxing to pressure mid-fight. Against Porter, he shifted from countering to command and ended it the moment the pattern was solved. His knockout power isn't brute, it's diagnostic. He lands the right shot because he's already mapped every response. That ability to redesign fights in real time defines what it means to be great. Crawford doesn't survive bad rounds, he ends the questions that create them. Within his era, he's never been outthought. Naoya Inoue belongs in the great tier because he makes elite opponents look ordinary. He turns complexity into clarity. Every punch clean, every angle deliberate. Pressure fighters get timed. Technicians lose rhythm. His balance lets him shift from defense to offense without a breath in between, and his footwork keeps him perfectly centered no matter how wild the exchanges get. Moving up in weight hasn't slowed him. It's made him sharper. He's not just carrying his dominance through division. He's redefining what modern perfection in boxing looks like. Manny Pacquiao belongs in the great tier because his movement broke the rules of geometry. He didn't just attack from angles, he created them. Most fighters move to reset. Pacquiao moved to redesign the ring itself. His southpaw bursts flipped opponents' instincts, forcing them to defend from directions they'd never trained for. Even the most disciplined veterans, Barrera, Cotto, Thurman, unraveled not from one punch, but from the rhythm that kept changing faster than they could think. Pacquiao's brilliance wasn't just speed, it was control. Every flurry had purpose, every step a setup. What looked wild was rhythm only he could see. For over 20 years, he fought the best across 8 divisions and made them all fight his fight. In the heavyweight division, no fighter ever embodied pure, explosive mastery like Mike Tyson. Under Cus D'Amato, every motion served a purpose. No wasted steps, no uncertain moments. The peekaboo stance wasn't just protection, it was a launch pad. Each slip created an opening, each pivot created an angle, and the combinations landed before opponents even realized the sequence had started. Tyson's speed wasn't just in his hands, it was in his thinking. The instant an opponent moved, he was already 3 punches ahead, running a pattern he drilled 1,000 times. Against taller fighters, he erased distance before they could extend their reach. Against slower ones, he broke rhythm until timing itself stopped working. When Tyson was at his best, no one in the world could stop him. Tyson Fury belongs in the great tier because no heavyweight of his generation combines size, skill, and adaptability the way he does. At nearly 7 feet tall, He moves with the rhythm of a middleweight and the IQ of a grandmaster. Against Vladimir Klitschko, he dismantled a decade of dominance through rhythm and distance control. Against Deontay Wilder, he reinvented himself twice, first outboxing him, then walking him down, proving he could win by any method he chose. Fury doesn't just adapt to fights, he defines them. He decides the terms, changes rhythm mid-round, and bends opponents to his pace. His flaw is inconsistency, not ability. Some nights he drifts, others he dominates. But when he's focused, no heavyweight matches his control, imagination, or self-belief. When Tyson Fury is locked in, he's a great boxer. Level 7, GOAT. This is where greatness becomes legacy. Fighters here don't just master boxing, they redefine it. Every era measures itself against them. Muhammad Ali didn't just master technique, he mastered time itself. He changed the tempo of heavyweight boxing, forcing slower men to move, think, and breathe at his pace. His jab wasn't just quick, it was disruptive. A weapon that reset the rhythm of the entire fight. His reflexes let him stand in places no heavyweight should survive, and his footwork turned size into an illusion. Ali made giants chase shadows, but his greatest form came when the gifts faded. The Ali who beat George Foreman didn't rely on speed or movement. He turned stillness into strategy, letting the most dangerous puncher alive exhaust himself against calm. No one else in history reinvented themselves so completely and still ruled the sport's highest stage. Ali's genius wasn't just in how he fought, it was in how he existed. He transcended styles, opponents, and even physics, outthinking generations while captivating. Every era since has borrowed from him, but none have matched his balance of brilliance, courage, and charisma. Sugar Ray Robinson wasn't just a prototype, he was the sport's original finished product. Every great fighter since has been chasing fragments of what he did naturally. His command of rhythm, timing, and combination of flow didn't follow rules, it created them. Robinson blended precision with imagination, turning punches into sequences that felt more like choreography than combat. He could step backward and still land clean, shift weight mid-combination without losing balance, and make 5-punch flurries look effortless. He fought nearly 200 times across 3 decades, and his decline only began when the human body finally ran out of ways to keep up with his mind. The difference between him and everyone else wasn't talent, it was understanding. He didn't just react to momentum, he conducted it, controlling the tempo of a fight like a musician controls time. The controversy isn't whether he was great, it's whether anyone's ever come close. Robinson was boxing's beginning and in some ways its ceiling. Every fighter who's been called complete since has only been a reflection of what he already mastered. Bernard Hopkins didn't just win fights, he rewrote what ring IQ could be. He mastered the slow dismantling of confidence, breaking opponents down not with violence but with patience. He was never the fastest, strongest, or flashiest, just the most certain. Every clinch, every head position, every tempo shift was a trap disguised as discipline. He didn't fight opponents, he managed them. By the middle rounds, they weren't reacting to punches anymore. They were reacting to him. Against Felix Trinidad, he shut down one of the sport's most dangerous finishers without ever needing to brawl. Against Antonio Tarver, he made a younger, heavier champion look like he'd aged a decade overnight. Even in his 50s, against Jean Pascal, the control was still absolute. Timing, placement, and composure, all untouched by time. And that's the controversy. Hopkins might be the smartest fighter who ever lived. Others had brilliance in moments. He had it for 20 years straight. His greatness wasn't highlight reel magic. It was total understanding. Hopkins didn't just outthink people. He outlived them in the ring. As we move into the realm of defensive masters, few ever reached the purity of Pernell Whitaker. He didn't just master defense. He reinvented what it meant to be untouchable. He turned evasion into dominance, rhythm into control, and frustration into victory. Opponents didn't just miss, they questioned whether landing clean was even possible. His upper body movement blurred the line between instinct and foresight, every slip and pivot placing him perfectly to counter. He didn't retreat from danger, he stood inside it and rewrote the terms. Against Julio Cesar Chavez, he neutralized pressure so completely that one of boxing's most relentless fighters looked hesitant. Against Buddy McGirt, he controlled range and tempo with such precision that every round felt like a masterclass in distance. Whitaker didn't defend to survive, he defended to dictate. He made the ring feel small for his opponent and infinite for himself. His mastery wasn't loud or flashy, it was pure control made invisible, and that's what made it legendary. If Whitaker made defense an art, Marvin Hagler proved offense could be just as disciplined. He balanced skill with aggression, always pressuring, never panicking. His southpaw stance and tight guard let him walk through storms without losing form, and his jab wasn't a setup tool. It was a weapon that controlled the fight. Against Thomas Hearns, he turned 3 rounds into one of boxing's greatest wars, trading fire without losing his base for a second. Against Roberto Duran, he showed the opposite side of greatness: measured patience, quiet control, and the discipline to outbox a legend instead of overpower him. Hagler's greatness came from completeness. No wasted movement, no mental lapses, no shortcuts. He could match skill with skill, will with will, and win either way. He didn't need flash because he had finality. Every man who faced him had to be perfect just to survive, and even that was rarely enough. If you'd like to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. I'll be posting new videos regularly.